Welcome to English Through Storytelling. Imagine having the power to captivate everyone around you without saying a word. To walk into a room and instantly command attention not through conventional beauty or wealth, but through something far more mysterious and irresistible. This was the extraordinary gift of Oscar Wilde, perhaps history's most famous dandy, who seduced Victorian society not with physical intimacy but with something far more potent, the courage to be unabashedly different in a world obsessed with conformity. "I put all my genius into my life. I put only my talent into my works," Wilde once declared. And today, we'll discover exactly how he transformed himself into a living work of art that fascinated even those who claimed to despise him. Before we begin this seductive journey through one of literature's most fascinating characters, take a moment to subscribe to our channel. Why? Because while other English learning channels offer grammar drills and vocabulary lists, we offer something far more valuable: the secrets of human connection hidden within the world's greatest stories. Hit that subscribe button now to join our community of language enthusiasts who believe learning English should be as captivating as the stories we share. Today's tale explores the dandy archetype, the mysterious blend of masculine and feminine qualities that creates an irresistible allure. You'll discover how Wilde's ability to transcend categories made him not just famous but absolutely unforgettable, and how you might harness some of that same magnetic power in your own life. So settle in for The Artist's Touch, a tale of allure and transformation, where we'll uncover the psychological secrets behind the kind of seduction that has nothing to do with physical attraction and everything to do with the courage to be authentically yourself. Let our story begin. The Artist's Touch, a tale of allure and transformation. In the autumn of 1887, a mist-shrouded London street welcomed a figure unlike any other. Oliver Westwood stepped from a hansom cab with deliberate grace, his emerald velvet coat catching the amber glow of gas lamps. At 28, he cut a striking silhouette against the drab backdrop of Victorian propriety. His dark hair fell in loose waves to his shoulders, longer than fashion dictated for men yet styled with such artful precision that it transcended gender expectations rather than defying them. Oliver's residence in Mayfair had become the talk of London society, though few could articulate precisely why they found themselves drawn to his Saturday evening gatherings. Most aristocratic homes hosted similar functions: music, conversation, fine spirits. Yet Oliver's salon possessed an ineffable quality that left guests simultaneously scandalized and desperate to return. Perhaps it was the curious mix of attendees: duchesses seated beside bohemian painters, conservative politicians engaged in lively debate with progressive women's rights advocates, all coexisting in an atmosphere where conventional social hierarchies temporarily dissolved. On this particular evening, Oliver was returning from a theatrical performance that had proven disappointingly conventional. He paused before entering his home, noting the flicker of candlelight in the front parlor. His manservant, Thomas, would have retired hours ago, which could only mean one thing: an unexpected visitor. With curiosity piqued, Oliver entered to find a young man seated nervously by the fire. The visitor sprang to his feet upon Oliver's entrance, revealing himself to be James Hartford, the son of a prominent industrialist. At 23, James represented everything Oliver found tediously predictable about the emerging merchant class: conventional in thought, conservative in dress, consumed by commercial ambition rather than artistic pursuit. "Mr. Westwood," James began, his voice faltering slightly, "please forgive the intrusion." Your manservant allowed me to wait when I explained the urgency of my situation. Oliver removed his gloves with unhurried precision. Urgency and patience make strange bedfellows, Mr. Hartford. You've waited 3 hours. Surely whatever brings you here at this unseemly hour can wait until you've had a drink. Without waiting for an answer, Oliver poured 2 glasses of amber liquid from a crystal decanter. He handed one to James, noting how the younger man's fingers trembled slightly upon accepting it. "I've come about a portrait," James said finally. "I understand you studied painting in Paris before your literary endeavors." Oliver allowed a small smile to play at the corner of his lips. His brief artistic career had produced works of startling beauty before he abandoned painting for writing. Though he had exhibited in Paris to critical acclaim, Oliver had abruptly stopped painting 3 years prior, claiming that art should remain mysterious, like a beautiful woman who disappears before revealing all her secrets. "I no longer accept commissions," Oliver replied, settling into an armchair and gesturing for James to do the same. "Though I admit to curiosity about what drives a man of practical business to seek art at midnight." James took a nervous sip of his drink before answering. "It's not for me. It's for my fiancée, Miss Eleanor Blackwood. Our engagement will be announced next month, and I wish to present her with something unique." "A commissioned portrait hardly qualifies as unique, Mr. Hartford. Photographic studios populate London like weeds after rain." "But none possess your perspective," James replied, revealing more perception than Oliver had credited him with. "Eleanor is different from other society women. She reads extensively, speaks 3 languages, and finds conventional portraiture suffocating." "Fascinating," Oliver commented, though his tone suggested the opposite. "And what makes you think I would find painting your fiancée any less suffocating than she would find being painted by others?" James leaned forward, his commercial instincts emerging. "Name your price, Mr. Westwood." "Whatever you ask." Oliver laughed, a melodious sound that contained genuine amusement. "My dear Mr. Hartford, if I were motivated by money, I would have followed your father's path rather than my own. No, I require something far more valuable than coin to be persuaded." "Which is?" "Intrigue." Oliver set down his glass and studied James with new interest. "Bring Miss Blackwood to my next Saturday salon. If I find her half as unusual as you claim, perhaps I'll reconsider." As James departed with this conditional promise, Oliver remained by the dying fire, contemplating this unexpected development. He had spoken truthfully. Money held little appeal. But the prospect of encountering a genuinely intriguing person amid the predictable socialites of London? That was currency of a different order. The following Saturday, Oliver's home buzzed with the usual assortment of society figures, artists, and intellectual provocateurs. He moved through the crowded rooms with effortless charm, his attire once again blurring conventional boundaries. His tailored jacket was traditionally masculine in cut but embellished with subtle floral embroidery that caught the light when he moved. A single emerald earring adorned his left ear, a fashion no other man in London would dare adopt, yet on Oliver it seemed not merely appropriate but inevitable. When James Hartford arrived with his fiancée, Oliver was engaged in spirited debate with the Countess of Harwick about whether morality in art existed, Oliver arguing that beauty alone was sufficient justification for any artistic expression. "Mr. Westwood," James interrupted with obvious nervousness, "may I present Miss Eleanor Blackwood?" Oliver turned, prepared to offer perfunctory pleasantries to yet another conventional society daughter. Instead, he found himself momentarily speechless. Eleanor Blackwood was tall, with striking features that defied the soft, demure beauty currently fashionable among London's elite. Her dark hair was arranged simply, without the elaborate curls favored by her peers. But it was her eyes that captured Oliver's attention, intelligent, aware, and containing something he rarely encountered in society, genuine curiosity. "Miss Blackwood," he recovered smoothly, taking her gloved hand. "Your fiancé has spoken of you with such enthusiasm that I feared reality might prove disappointing. How refreshing to discover he underestimated rather than exaggerated." Eleanor's smile revealed she recognized the calculated charm in his greeting. "And Mr. Hartford speaks of you with a mixture of admiration and apprehension that I found irresistibly intriguing, Mr. Westwood." "Apprehension?" Oliver raised an eyebrow. How extraordinarily perceptive of him. "Most people mistake my honesty for provocation." "Perhaps because honesty has become so rare that we no longer recognize it," Eleanor replied. "Like encountering a wolf in a city accustomed only to lapdogs." The comparison delighted Oliver. He gestured toward a quieter corner of the salon. "Would you care to see some of my collection? I find artwork reveals more about its admirers than its creators." As they moved through the room, Oliver noted how Eleanor's presence altered the social dynamics around her. Women observed her with mixtures of curiosity and wariness. Men's gazes lingered, though not solely due to physical attraction. Like Oliver himself, Eleanor emanated an indefinable quality that disrupted conventional responses. Oliver led her to a small alcove where a single painting hung, a brilliantly executed portrait of a young man whose beauty was unmistakable, yet rendered in a style that emphasized intellect over mere physical attributes. "Your work?" Eleanor asked, studying it with genuine interest. "Yes," Oliver admitted. "One of my final pieces before I abandoned painting." "Why did you stop?" Her question was direct, without the coy artifice that characterized most social interactions. "Because I discovered that words could capture truth in ways paint could not." Oliver watched her reaction carefully. In painting, one can only show what is visible. In writing, one can reveal what remains hidden. Yet certain truths can only be revealed through what remains unsaid, Eleanor countered. The spaces between brushstrokes often contain more meaning than the paint itself. Their conversation continued through the evening, ranging from aesthetic philosophy to the hypocrisy of London society. Oliver found himself genuinely engaged for the first time in months. Eleanor possessed not only intelligence but the rare ability to see beyond surfaces, to question conventional thinking without the tedious rebellion that characterized many self-proclaimed progressive thinkers. As the evening concluded, Oliver made his decision. "I will paint your portrait, Miss Blackwood." James, who had hovered anxiously throughout the evening, beamed with satisfaction. "Excellent. When shall we begin? I could bring Eleanor next Tuesday." "That won't be necessary, Mr. Hartford," Oliver interrupted smoothly. The process requires privacy between artist and subject. Miss Blackwood will come alone, beginning tomorrow at 2 o'clock. James's expression clouded with uncertainty, but Eleanor placed a reassuring hand on his arm. "It's merely artistic convention, James. Mr. Westwood must establish an understanding of his subject without distractions." After they departed, the Countess of Harwick approached Oliver with amused curiosity. "An interesting development. I haven't seen you take such immediate interest in anyone since your return from Paris." "Miss Blackwood possesses something increasingly rare in our society," Oliver replied, watching the departing couple through the window. "Authenticity." "Be careful, Oliver," the Countess warned gently. "Society tolerates your eccentricities because you maintain a certain distance. Become too involved, and tolerance quickly transforms to judgment." Oliver turned from the window with a characteristic smile that never quite reached his eyes. "My dear Countess, if I feared judgment, I would have pursued banking rather than beauty." The following afternoon, Eleanor arrived precisely at 2 o'clock. Oliver had transformed his drawing-room into a temporary studio, with northern light streaming through tall windows. He had eschewed his usual flamboyant attire for simpler clothing, though still carefully selected to blur gender expectations. His linen shirt was loose and open at the throat, paired with fitted trousers and a long, flowing waistcoat that might equally have adorned a bohemian woman or man. "Where would you like me to sit?" Eleanor asked after initial pleasantries. "Conventional portraits position subjects like carefully arranged flowers," Oliver replied, gesturing toward a chaise long positioned near the window. "But I'm less interested in how you appear than in who you are. Please, make yourself comfortable while we talk." As Eleanor settled onto the chaise, Oliver began sketching, his movements fluid and confident. "Tell me, Miss Blackwood, what attracted you to Mr. Hartford? You seem remarkably different in temperament and interests." "Social convention dictates I should claim love transcends such differences," Eleanor replied with surprising candor. "But you strike me as someone who prefers truth to convention." "Invariably. James represents security in a world that offers women precious few options," she continued, her posture relaxing as she spoke. "He is kind, if conventional, and does not seek to change my nature as many men would." "Yet you are agreeing to a life that will inevitably constrain that nature," Oliver observed, his pencil capturing the subtle tension in her expression. "Society wives, particularly of industrialists, are expected to be decorative rather than intellectual. Just as male artists are expected to be conventionally masculine rather than whatever fascinating hybrid you represent, Mr. Westwood." Her directness was refreshing. Oliver laughed. "Touché, Miss Blackwood. Though I have the luxury of choosing my constraints. My family name and modest fortune allow eccentricities that would destroy a man of lesser means. And I have the luxury of an independent fortune that allows me to marry without financial necessity," Eleanor countered. "My constraints are chosen as deliberately as yours." Their conversation continued through that session and subsequent ones. Over the following weeks, as Oliver transferred his preliminary sketches to canvas, a genuine friendship developed between artist and subject. Eleanor revealed herself to be widely read in philosophy and science, areas typically considered unsuitable for female minds. Oliver shared his theories on art and beauty, finding in Eleanor a worthy intellectual partner. During their fifth session, Oliver worked in silence for nearly an hour, his concentration intense as he captured a particular quality in Eleanor's eyes. When he finally spoke, his question caught her off guard. "Are you in love with him?" Eleanor's composure faltered momentarily. "With James? That's rather direct, even for you." "I find circumnavigation tedious when a direct course is available," Oliver replied, mixing colors with careful precision. "You speak of him with fondness but without passion." "Passion fades," Eleanor said after a thoughtful pause. "Compatibility endures." "A sensible approach to marriage," Oliver acknowledged. "Though I wonder if you're not confusing sensibility with surrender." "And I wonder if you're not projecting your own fear of conventional attachments onto my circumstances," Eleanor replied with equal directness. Oliver set down his brush and studied her with new appreciation. "Most people hesitate to challenge me so directly. They find my reputation for caustic wit intimidating. I find that people who cultivate provocative personas are often testing whether others will see beyond the performance to the person beneath," Eleanor said. "Your dandy affectations are both genuine expression and calculated armor." The observation struck uncomfortably close to truth. Oliver returned to his painting without response, though something in his expression told Eleanor she had glimpsed behind his carefully constructed facade. As the portrait neared completion, the dynamic between them shifted subtly. Oliver found himself anticipating their sessions with unusual eagerness. Eleanor began lingering after their appointed time, engaged in conversations that ranged from literature to the nature of beauty. James Hartford, initially a frequent topic of discussion, was mentioned less frequently. During their eighth session, as autumn rain lashed against the windows, Eleanor arrived in visible distress. "What's happened?" Oliver asked, setting aside his palette immediately. "James and I had a disagreement," she replied, removing her rain-dampened cloak. "About the portrait and about you." "I see," Oliver responded carefully. "He objects to our arrangement." "He objects to what he perceives as your influence," Eleanor clarified. "Last night, I questioned some of his father's business practices, specifically the treatment of factory workers. James claimed he didn't recognize my opinions as my own." Oliver helped her to her usual position, noting the heightened color in her cheeks and the unusual brightness of her eyes. "And were they your own opinions?" "They were thoughts I've always had but rarely expressed," Eleanor admitted. "Our conversations have merely given me courage to voice them." "The danger of intellectual awakening," Oliver observed, returning to his canvas, "is that it rarely remains confined to abstractions. Eventually, one begins questioning the practical foundations of one's life." "Is that why society finds you so threatening, Mr. Westwood? Because you inspire others to question." "Society finds me threatening because I refuse to pretend," Oliver replied, his brush creating delicate highlights on the canvas. "I present myself as I am, neither exclusively masculine nor feminine, neither conventional nor rebellious for rebellion's sake. I exist in the spaces between categories, and nothing disturbs social order more than that which cannot be easily classified. Eleanor studied him thoughtfully. Is that why you stopped painting? Because it classified you too definitively as an artist. The question penetrated deeper than Eleanor could know. Oliver paused, considering how much truth to reveal. I stopped painting because I created something too honest. A portrait that revealed too much of both subject and artist. Like Dorian Gray in your novel? Eleanor asked, referencing the manuscript Oliver had allowed her to read, a work considered too controversial for publication. You've discerned the autobiographical elements, Oliver acknowledged with a slight smile. Though unlike my fictional creation, my subject embraced the truth revealed rather than destroying it. The experience proved unsettling. Because it revealed your capacity for genuine connection rather than merely aesthetic appreciation? Oliver met her gaze directly. You have an uncomfortable talent for seeing beyond surfaces, Miss Blackwood. As do you, Mr. Westwood. It's why your portrait will capture more than my appearance. The statement hung between them, laden with unspoken implications. Oliver returned to his work, allowing silence to fill the room except for the rhythmic sound of rain against glass. When Eleanor finally left, the customary handshake at the door lingered a moment longer than propriety dictated. The following week brought no word from Eleanor. Oliver found himself uncharacteristically distracted, checking the clock repeatedly during what would have been their usual appointment time. When another day passed without communication, he sent a brief note inquiring about her absence. The reply came from James Hartford rather than Eleanor. Mr. Westwood. Miss Blackwood is indisposed and will not be continuing with the portrait sessions. Please inform me of your fee for work completed thus far. Regards. James Hartford. The terseness of the note revealed more than its actual content. Oliver immediately sent his manservant to the Blackwood residence with a carefully composed message for Eleanor personally. The servant returned with a note undelivered, having been informed that Miss Blackwood was not receiving correspondence. For 3 days, Oliver attempted various means of communication, all rebuffed. On the 4th day, he took the unprecedented step of appearing at the Blackwood residence himself. The butler who answered the door regarded Oliver's flamboyant appearance with poorly disguised disapproval. "I'm afraid Miss Blackwood is not at home to visitors," the butler intoned. "Then I shall wait until she returns," Oliver replied with a calm certainty that had intimidated far more formidable opponents than household staff. After a tense moment, the butler reluctantly admitted him to a formal sitting-room with a promise to inquire if Miss Blackwood might make an exception. 20 minutes later, Eleanor entered. Her appearance shocked Oliver, not because she looked unwell, but because she had transformed. Gone was the simply styled hair and understated elegance he had come to associate with her. Instead, she appeared in full society regalia, elaborately arranged curls, a gown of fashionable excess, and an expression of rigid control. "Mr. Westwood," she greeted him with formal coldness. "This is highly irregular. As is disappearing without explanation when a portrait is nearly complete," he countered, studying her with concern. "What's happened, Eleanor?" Her composure fractured slightly at his use of her given name, something he had never done during their sessions. "My father received an anonymous letter," she said quietly, "suggesting impropriety in our arrangement and questioning my suitability as James's future wife." Oliver's expression darkened. Society's favorite weapon, anonymous character assassination. "The letter contained details of our conversations," Eleanor continued. "Things only someone who had been present could know." "And you believe I sent it?" The hurt in his voice was genuine. "No," Eleanor replied immediately. "But James does. As does my father." "And what do you believe?" Oliver asked, taking a step toward her. "I believe that someone at your salon overheard us and seized an opportunity to create scandal." Eleanor's hands twisted together anxiously. "It doesn't matter who sent it. The damage is done. My father has insisted I conform more strictly to social expectations until the engagement is formalized. Hence the transformation." Oliver gestured to her altered appearance. "You've become the portrait society wishes to see rather than the reality I was painting." "Reality is a luxury few women can afford, Mr. Westwood." The bitterness in her tone was unfamiliar. "Your unconventionality is celebrated as eccentric genius. Mine would destroy my family's standing. So you'll sacrifice your authentic self for social acceptance?" The question contained no judgment, only sadness. "I'm making a practical choice," Eleanor responded. "Just as you made when you abandoned painting for writing, a more socially acceptable artistic pursuit for a man of your background." The observation was perceptive and uncomfortably accurate. Oliver fell silent, recognizing the parallels she had drawn between their situations. "The portrait," he said finally. "It's nearly complete. James has requested it be delivered unfinished. He'll pay whatever fee you require." "I don't want payment," Oliver replied. "I want you to see it completed. One final session." Eleanor hesitated. "That's impossible now." "Not at my studio," Oliver countered. "The Royal Academy is hosting a private viewing for patrons tomorrow evening. Both our families have standing invitations. Meet me in the East Gallery at 9. 1 hour to complete what we've begun." After a long moment, Eleanor nodded almost imperceptibly. 1 hour. Then our association ends. The following evening, the Royal Academy glittered with London's elite. Oliver arrived deliberately late, his entrance causing the usual ripple of whispers and sidelong glances. His attire for the evening was a study in calculated provocation, conventionally tailored evening wear but in midnight blue rather than black, with a silk cravat in place of the standard white tie. A single pearl earring and hair longer than fashion dictated for men completed the effect of someone operating within social boundaries while simultaneously challenging them. He moved through the crowded galleries with practiced nonchalance, exchanging pleasantries with acquaintances while scanning the rooms for Eleanor. At precisely 9 o'clock, he slipped into the East Gallery, a smaller exhibition space currently featuring Renaissance masterpieces. Eleanor arrived moments later, again transformed into the society debutante her family expected. Her eyes, however, remained unchanged, intelligent, aware, and currently filled with apprehension. "You came," Oliver stated simply. Against better judgment, she replied. What could possibly be accomplished in 1 hour that would justify the risk? In response, Oliver produced a small sketchbook and pencil from his jacket. Turn toward the Botticelli, he instructed quietly, as if you're studying it. Eleanor complied, positioning herself before a magnificent Venus. Oliver began sketching rapidly, his eyes moving between her profile and his paper with practiced precision. I've been thinking about our conversations, he said as he worked. About authenticity and constraint. About choices made for survival versus choices made for truth. And what profound conclusion have you reached? There was a defensive edge to her question. That we are more similar than different, Oliver replied, his pencil capturing the subtle tension in her posture. Both navigating expectations, both seeking ways to express our true nature within systems designed to suppress it. Yet you found a way to exist outside conventional boundaries, Eleanor noted. To create your own rules. Have I? Oliver's tone held genuine question. Or have I merely created a different kind of prison, one where I'm expected to shock, to provoke, to represent something other than normal society? The dandy is as much a performance as the proper society wife. This perspective clearly surprised Eleanor. I never considered that your freedom might be another form of constraint. All roles constrain, Eleanor. The question is whether the role allows enough space for one's true self to breathe. Oliver looked up from his sketch. Your engagement to Hartford, does it allow that space? She remained silent for several moments, ostensibly studying the painting before her. Less than I had hoped, she finally admitted. But more than many women find. Oliver continued sketching, his movements becoming more deliberate as he refined details. There's something I haven't told you about why I stopped painting. The too honest portrait you mentioned? Yes, Oliver confirmed. It was a self-portrait, but one that revealed aspects of myself I wasn't prepared to acknowledge. The painting captured not just my appearance but my essence, including desires society deemed unacceptable. Eleanor turned slightly toward him. Because your desires transcend conventional categories? Like your appearance. Precisely. Oliver met her gaze directly. I discovered I wasn't merely playing with ambiguity for artistic effect or social provocation. The ambiguity was fundamental to my nature. The confession hung between them, more revealing than any Oliver had previously offered. Eleanor's expression softened with understanding. Thank you for trusting me with that truth, she said quietly. Truth exchanged for truth, Oliver replied. That's why I needed this final session. Not to complete your portrait, but to complete our conversation. From his jacket, he withdrew a folded paper and handed it to her. Eleanor opened it to find a small, exquisite sketch, not of her current appearance, but of her authentic self as captured during their studio sessions. The drawing revealed not just her physical features, but an essence of character that transcended mere resemblance. This is how I see you, Oliver said simply. Behind the social performance. Behind the careful constraints. Eleanor studied the sketch, her composure wavering. And the actual portrait? It captures the same truth, though more completely. Oliver put away his sketchbook. It's yours, whenever you wish to claim it, whether next week or years from now. And if I never claim it, then it remains in my studio, a testament to what might have been. Their hour nearly complete, they stood in silence before the Botticelli, two souls momentarily freed from performance. When Eleanor finally spoke, her voice contained both resolution and regret. I should return to my party. Of course, Oliver agreed. Hartford will be looking for you. Yes. Eleanor carefully folded the sketch and concealed it in her evening purse. Mr. Westwood, Oliver, thank you for seeing me as I am, rather than as society wishes me to be. The privilege was mine, he replied with uncharacteristic sincerity. Few people reveal their true nature so courageously. As Eleanor turned to leave, Oliver added, whatever choice you make, Hartford, another path entirely. Remember that authenticity need not always be visible to be preserved. Sometimes, the most subversive act is maintaining one's true self behind a socially acceptable facade. Eleanor paused, considering his words. Is that how you've survived? Authentic within while conforming just enough without. I've survived by creating a role that allows more truth than most, Oliver acknowledged. The dandy exists at the margins of acceptability, but still within the social framework. Complete authenticity would mean complete exile. A compromise, Eleanor observed. A tactical retreat, Oliver corrected with a hint of his customary smile. One fights battles that can be won and withdraws strategically from those that cannot. With a final exchanged glance that communicated more than words could express, Eleanor departed. Oliver remained before the Botticelli, contemplating the goddess who existed beyond mortal judgment. After several minutes, he too left the gallery, returning to the main reception with his public persona firmly in place, witty, provocative, deliberately ambiguous in both appearance and manner. 3 weeks later, London society buzzed with unexpected news. Miss Eleanor Blackwood had broken her engagement to James Hartford and announced her intention to travel to Paris to study art history, a shocking decision for a woman of her standing. When asked about her former fiancé, she reportedly replied with a wit that reminded some of Oliver Westwood, Mr. Hartford requires a wife who ornaments his life without complicating it. I found I could not be decorative without also being truthful. On the morning of her departure for France, a package arrived at Eleanor's home. Inside, she found the completed portrait, a masterpiece that captured not just her physical likeness but a quality of intellectual vivacity and quiet rebellion that none of her conventional portraits had ever revealed. The accompanying note contained just 7 words. Truth is beauty. Safe journey, fellow traveler. Oliver never exhibited publicly again, though he continued painting privately. Works that would only be discovered after his death and subsequently recognized as revolutionary in their blending of traditional technique with modernist sensibilities. His literary output flourished, each work pushing boundaries of acceptable discourse while maintaining just enough connection to conventional forms to avoid complete censorship. When asked years later by a particularly bold journalist about his friendship with the now-renowned art historian Dr. Eleanor Blackwood, Oliver smiled his characteristic half-smile and replied, We recognized in each other a shared condition, the determination to exist authentically in a world that rewards conformity. Some call it courage. I call it necessity. One cannot breathe long while wearing a mask. The statement, like Oliver himself, challenged without quite transgressing, occupying that ambiguous territory between conformity and rebellion that defined the true dandy. Not merely a matter of fashion or affectation, but a philosophical stance. The insistence on individual expression within collective constraints, the refusal to be categorized, and the subtle subversion of using society's own structures against it. In this way, Oliver exemplified the seductive power of ambiguity, attracting others not through conventional beauty or traditional charm, but through the irresistible allure of someone who transcends categories and expectations. His appeal lay not in conforming to either masculine or feminine ideals, but in creating something entirely his own, a self-made work of art that invited others to question their own assumptions and limitations. Like the portrait he created of Eleanor, Oliver's greatest masterpiece was himself, a living embodiment of the principle that true seduction begins not with the conquest of others, but with the courage to express one's authentic nature, however unconventional it might be. Key vocabulary, repeated throughout. Aesthetic, concerned with beauty or the appreciation of beauty. Ambiguity, the quality of being open to more than one interpretation. Authenticity, the quality of being genuine or real, not false or imitation. Bohemian, a socially unconventional person, especially one involved in the arts. Conformity, behavior in accordance with socially accepted conventions. Constraint, a limitation or restriction. Conventional, based on or in accordance with what is generally done or believed. Dandy, a man unduly devoted to style, neatness, and fashion in dress and appearance. Eccentric, unconventional, and slightly strange. Facade, an outward appearance that is maintained to conceal a less pleasant reality. Flamboyant, tending to attract attention because of exuberance, confidence, and stylishness. Genuine, truly what something is said to be. Authentic. Nonconformity, failure or refusal to conform to established conventions, rules, or practices. Perception, the way in which something is regarded, understood, or interpreted. Perspective, a particular attitude toward or way of regarding something. Provocative, causing anger or another strong reaction, especially deliberately. Revelation, a surprising and previously unknown fact, especially one that is made known in a dramatic way. Sensibility, the quality of being able to appreciate and respond to complex emotional or aesthetic influences. Subversive, seeking or intended to subvert an established system or institution. Transcend, to go beyond the range or limits of something abstract, typically a conceptual field or division. And so concludes our tale of Oliver Westwood, the ultimate dandy who challenged Victorian conventions through his unique blend of masculine and feminine qualities. Through his journey with Eleanor, we've witnessed how true seduction lies not in conformity but in the courage to express one's authentic self. As Oscar Wilde himself might have said, "Be yourself, everyone else is already taken." Perhaps there's something of the dandy in all of us, that desire to transcend expectations and create our own masterpiece of self-expression. If you've enjoyed this exploration of authenticity and allure, I'd be delighted to know your thoughts in the comments below. What aspects of the dandy archetype resonated with you? Which character did you find most compelling? Should you wish to continue this literary journey together, consider joining our community of language enthusiasts by subscribing. Each week, we explore fascinating characters and timeless stories that help us improve our English while contemplating life's deeper questions. Until our paths cross again for another tale, remember that sometimes the most powerful form of rebellion is simply being true to yourself, even if only you know it. As our friend Oliver would say, truth is beauty, and there's nothing more beautiful than authenticity. Thank you for sharing this time with me today. I look forward to our next literary adventure.